Welcome to Office Hours. Today is, what day is it? September 23rd, and we're here to talk about all things SEO. We had a ton of questions submitted today. I say ton, meaning two. Because normally we just kind of wing it and ask questions that we have come off the top of our mind, but we have pressing questions and they are going to be answered in order of receipt. So we're going to start, Allie, with your question.
Which I remember this week.
You remember? Okay, because if you don't, I can read it back to you.
Yes.
What is your question?
My question is there a way to customize our analytics dashboard so we're only seeing results from the US? Because we do get some sort of odd hits from around the world that don't really seem legitimate, and I think they skew our numbers sometimes.
Pardon me. So you're hoping to improve the accuracy of your numbers.
Correct.
By only showing traffic in the United States. That's a common question. And sometimes I kind of steer people away from it because sometimes that traffic you want to be able to pay attention to. Because we might, for instance, like if we're doing a link attracting tactic where we're doing and creating great resources, we'd want to know if those links are producing traffic. Again, not because the links by producing traffic help us, but because it helps us identify that someone's linking to us sometimes. We don't want to permanently exclude that. I don't recommend changing analytics permanently to do that. You could. There's several ways to do it. The easiest way to do it is what Google Analytics calls setting up a segment.
Okay.
And so what a segment is a way to just limit the data in the report that you're currently viewing. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't permanently change your data. You can turn it off and on as needed. You could always keep it on if you wanted, but it would help kind of see where, limit. So let's say, for instance, you wanted to only see traffic from the search engines. Mm-hmm. Right? Or you only want to see traffic from Facebook. You could use a segment to just limit, and you could then see how your Facebook visitors react with your website. In this case, we're going to do the same thing, but with visitors from the US. Mm-hmm. So do you mind, I think I need to grant you permission to share your screen. Okay. So if you wouldn't mind logging into your Google Analytics before you share your screen, and then we'll look and set this up on the dashboard, and I'll show you how easy it is to create a segment. Great. So we'll go to your customization to look at your dashboard. Yep. And we'll click on there. Okay, so here's the dashboard, right? This is what we get by mail every week to kind of check in on things. Mm-hmm. And you'll notice at the top there's a blue circle that says all users. Mm-hmm. Okay, that is a segment. Okay. We can add a segment and click on add a segment and go to over on the left side that says system, and we'll just show you some options here. Okay. So for instance, these are system made ones that Google Analytics has already created for you. So for instance, let's say we wanted to only limit ourselves to mobile visitors. So we can scroll up to the top and you can look for the word mobile traffic. Right. You can click on that. Actually, don't. There's a checkbox. There you go. And then hit apply, the blue button near the bottom. And so this shows two pieces of data, all users and your mobile traffic. So what's interesting, through the circle is orange, but it's only like half of the circle, mm-hmm. which suggests about half of this traffic is mobile, right? And now you can go and you can see the orange line everywhere represents where your mobile visitors are, okay? Or your pie chart, you can see that where your mobile traffic came from, right? So all users versus mobile traffic. So it's interesting is that
The
half,
social, yeah.
half of your mobile
Social
traffic is from social.
Yeah.
Interesting, huh? So what we're going to do is create we're going to create another segment. So there's a little arrow, actually hit cancel there for a second. I want to show you something. So there's a little arrow, click on that. Yeah, that little point, and you can remove that one. And so now let's add a new segment, and we're going to do custom. Oh, why is it not? Oh, I guess we have to hit the red new segment because we haven't created it yet. Okay, there we go. So if you scroll down, it says location. Click on what you want to do is country. And if you start to type, actually not contains, you're going to do, yeah, go United States. It's already selected it for you. It exactly matches. Okay, so before we do anything else, a couple things. Number one, this will affect 87% of your users. So that means roughly 13% of your traffic will be down when you view this segment, okay? Now this assumes a couple things. This assumes that Google knows they're in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
There are some ways to spoof this. So someone in India could pretend to be from the United States and Google Analytics wouldn't know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it's probably pretty accurate.
Okay.
And then, so that's really it. Now we go up to the top, don't hit save yet. Over to the left of that, we're going to create a name such as all US visitors. And we're going to hit preview. Okay. Well, the preview didn't really do anything because we were already previewing. So then if we hit save, now we see data sorted by all users and all US visitors. So now, if you only wanted to look at US visitors, you could go and remove the all users segment by clicking that arrow and removing. It doesn't permanently remove it, just removes it from the segments. And that's the nice thing about using segments. It doesn't change anything permanently. So now we're looking at all US visitors.
Perfect.
And so you could kind of see things like, oh, there's 3, 4, or 4 errors from the US.
Yeah.
You know, we would want to see non-US.
That was me last week, I think.
that probably, it's okay. Like, that's fine. As long as you can account for them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because this was important because we had a couple incidents where we would get analytics would report like 65 users at one time from Argentina. And I'm like, it's not how, like somehow that's getting past their filters or whatever, because that's not really happening. And it's like, and you know, we're not doing a ton of, we're not trying to do international marketing or building right now. So at the moment, we're not really concerned with out of the country traffic because it's not going to do a whole lot for us. So this is great. This is really useful.
Well, so, you know, and it actually is really useful later too, right? Like one of my biggest clients, they get a lot of visitors. And I was looking at the data going, I'm not happy with the results. Their traffic is down, their leads are down. But the problem was the client wasn't complaining. The client was like, these are great. In fact, the CEO was like, this is wonderful. And I'm like, but the data is showing you're down. And I was afraid they weren't making the connection. Or, well, it turns out I was only looking at international traffic, not US traffic. And that's the only thing they care about. They can only serve people. And so when you look at US traffic, it was down a little bit, but it wasn't nearly as bad. They were getting less traffic from international. And as far as they're concerned, that's fine.
Exactly.
And so when, you know, this is not to diminish your site. This is a pretty small traffic site.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We got to start somewhere, right? And you're starting well.
And
But
honestly, just our bounce rate, the fact that it's this low this week is great for us because previously our bounce rates were so high, like 75% of people were bouncing after one page. So for it to be down lower, down into like the 50% range, like that's great for us.
okay. Okay. Good. So there you go. That's how you do it. You create a segment. Now here's the best part of the segment.
Hmm.
We can leave the dashboard and we can go to acquisition and we can go to all traffic and we can click channels. And the segment stays with us.
Oh, great.
So it applies across the board, not just on that one report.
Yeah, that's also very helpful.
Right? So now you know you got 4 form submissions
Hmm.
from the US.
Right.
Right?
Hmm.
Right? There's all kinds of really nice things about this. Now, if we, for some reason, like if you were a large multinational and you're like, okay, the European group needs to know European countries, the North America group needs to know North American countries, we might then go into different Google Analytics views and permanently change the data.
Mhm.
But that would be a much more complicated and permanent solution.
Yeah.
But for this purpose,
Hmm.
we have just done this. In fact, even if you were a multinational corporation and you had to justify marketing dollars for US only,
Right.
we would start here.
Hmm.
And then once we could show that this really did accurately only limit it to US visitors, then we would change Google Analytics permanently, or at least create a new view to view it. But we'd first test it here to make sure everything's working right before we start changing data. Because once you change data in Google Analytics, it can't be unchanged. Segments is a much safer way to do this.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, awesome.
Hope that helps.
It does, very much so.
Good, good, good. Well, Lavanya, you had 2 questions you submitted, but you submitted them a couple hours after Allie. So unfortunately now Lavanya has to go second.
That's fine.
Do you remember your questions?
One of them was about a one-page website. How does it rank well on Google, or it doesn't count?
Okay. Okay. So
And the other one
how
was about
effective is a
backlinks.
one-page website?
I'm sorry?
So you're kind of asking about the effectiveness of a one-page website?
Yes, because I had a client and I asked them if they wanted like the Yoast plugin or something like that, or to set up Google Analytics, and he said that he doesn't think Google pays attention to one-page websites or try to rank one-page websites.
Okay.
But he wasn't 100% sure, and I said I'll ask. So
Yeah, yeah. So I'd say that Google prefers not one-page website. It would prefer you not to have a one-page website.
mhm.
And also, by only having a one-page website, you're putting yourself at a significant disadvantage to get a more opportunity to get traffic.
Okay.
Now, if you have other agendas and goals, maybe all you need is a one-page website, and maybe you're not worried about traffic from search engines. But I also wouldn't recommend limiting yourself like that. So, in one sense, the answer is theoretically Google totally could serve a one-page website, and so we should probably do everything we can to apply what we know about SEO to even a one-page website,
Mhm.
even though it might be harder to compete with a one-page website against other multiple-page websites. So I
Okay.
wouldn't blow it off and say, we're going to not worry about SEO just because it's a one-page website. I would go ahead and start, install Yoast and do all the other best practices. Do the keyword research, make sure we speak our customer's language, set up Google Analytics, set Search Console, do all the processes with a one-page website.
Mhm.
But just know that we are setting ourselves up with a disadvantage by limiting ourselves to one page. But
And
it's
the
not
other one-
impossible.
Okay. And the other one was about Like if you reference, like you give facts, but you cite resources where you got them from. Is that the same thing as a backlink?
So if you link from one page to another, even if it's citing a source,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a link is a link.
And
So
will I get in trouble if it's a no follow? Which is I
no,
don't know, but okay.
if you link out using nofollow, it's very safe. That's kind of what nofollow is for. It is nofollow is your way of telling Google, hey, we can't vouch for this site, and so we're going to link to it because we feel like we need to, but
Mhm.
we're not saying we are vouching for this credibility. Now, if you want to play it extra conservatively, so that's what the nofollow attribute will do. But
Okay.
sometimes it might be in your advantage to, or if you are vouching for something, let's say you're linking to a credible source. Well, that's what a link is for. It's to say, hey, we think this is a good source. And so as long as you are confident it's a good source of material, why bother to add the nofollow link? You might not need it.
Okay.
If you are taking money for a link, then you need to nofollow it. If users generate a link somehow automatically, like a blog comment, then it should be nofollowed, because that could be a problem. But if you're saying, I'm writing an article, and the article is about the Statue of Liberty, and I'm going to link and talk about Ellis Island and how people who went to Ellis Island, the first thing they saw was Statue of Liberty, and you link to Ellis Island, well, that makes sense because that's a source.
Mm-hmm.
You could nofollow it, but you're being too cautious. You might not. Might not be a reason. So you might not need to. Now, if you are writing about Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty, and you are linking to a boat tour of New York Harbor that is paid, and they pay you to put that link, well, then you better follow that link, because that is against Google's link scheme guidelines. Because
Okay.
money is transpired, money is passed hands, so that's what it means. You need to follow that link. So just because you link out doesn't mean you always need to use nofollow, but if you always want to play it safe, you should, but you don't have to, especially if it's a credible source. Some people think that Google will actually give you credit for linking out to a credible source. So if you are writing about the Statue of Liberty and you don't link to Liberty Island National Historic Park,
Mm-hmm.
well, why not? You're talking about it. Shouldn't you link to it?
Yeah.
I don't know if I believe that line of thinking, but I wouldn't be afraid of linking to a government website about the exact thing which you're talking about, right?
Right.
If it was another source or a questionable source or a source I wasn't quite sure is right, then I would hesitate. Does that make sense? That's kind of a very nuanced answer.
It makes sense.
Okay. Well, those were easy questions. I was ready for some tough stuff. All right, Allie, you've already declared you had more questions.
you. So the first one is sort of like integration between like marketing and SEO.
Okay.
So our company is in the process of buying a physical location to open up a clinic. And right now I believe have accepted our offer, and it's in, whatever.
Great.
So we may be opening in as few as 4 months. So the question is, when is the correct time to start adding that to our website, to start marketing for that? Is it appropriate to just add a page to our website now and then to maybe do social media marketing later? Should we hire an outside source? Like, what would be a good plan of attack for basically getting the word out that this is happening, and what kind of timeline?
So once you're there are certain things you're going to need to do.
Right.
You're going to need to add the address to your website, right, to make sure that people know how to find it. I would add it to every page of my website to make sure really easy. I would want to claim my Google My Business listing and do local optimization. There's an entire process in Curious Ants on how to do that. But to do that, you'd need to claim your Google My Business listing. That can take a few weeks. So one of the things I would do is, as soon as you have an address, or excuse, let me say it this way. As soon as you have a phone number and or a mailing address from which you can receive mail at that location, I would start the process to claim the Google My Business listing.
Okay, and would that be separate from our current business?
So do you have a Google My Business listing for your current business?
I don't know.
I don't think you do, because we've talked about the idea that it might be associated with someone's particular private residence.
Okay, I know we're on, like, you can leave a review for us on Google.
Yeah, but it doesn't list your address.
Actually, it might, because
Let's not share it, because we're sharing it with the public and we've already addressed that this might be a private residence.
right.
But so if you have a Google My Business listing, and you could find out by going to google.com/business and logging in and seeing if you have a control of one, then we would want to modify that listing so that it has the new address. They might require us to close that business listing and start a new one. They probably will require you to verify it somehow. So I would, as soon as you can receive mail, and the reason I say as soon as you can receive mail is because Google will send you a postcard to verify that you really are at that location.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, and you'll get mail from Google, and there's a couple ways they can do it. They can do it over the phone, or they can do it by mail, and it's hard to tell which way they will do, but anyway, it does take a week or so to get that verified. So I'd start with that as soon as you can receive mail. And if that's as late as the day you move in, well, then that's the best you can do, right? But I would just be look at the Curious Ants local business processes to see how that works. And that's one of the things I would do. Now, as far as social media marketing, right, then it's all about how comfortable you are announcing that kind of thing. Hey, coming soon, a new location, right? And you might want to change your Facebook page to a business Facebook page where you can actually have the address.
Right.
You'll want to create other local listings for other sites like Bing, Apple Maps, MapQuest, Yelp. Even though you are not a restaurant, you'd still want listings at all these places because people have preferences, and they might, like, I hate Apple Maps, but my wife uses Apple Maps, so I don't know. Hey, I'm not fighting that battle. That's fine. If she wants to use Apple Maps, fine. The point is, you want to be on Apple Maps as a business too, because some people just prefer Apple Maps. I believe some people probably use Bing Maps. I don't, but I want to be on Bing Maps. And Google.
Didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, if you have an Amazon Alexa device, it uses Bing Maps. So if you ask Amazon Alexa, it will give a Bing Maps result. Google also will want to see name, address, phone number consistency among all these different websites. So the more consistent they see your name, address, phone number for your business among all these other websites, the more credible Google is going to be in your Google listing, the more likely it is to serve up your listing to customers looking for you. So just make sure that you have name, address, phone number consistently wherever you publish. And I think I list about 20 different websites to which you should consider submitting yourself in the game plan. So that's what I would do. If you're using WordPress, you could consider getting the Yoast local business plugin. What that does is it supplements your Yoast listing with name, address, phone number schema, which makes it very, very clear to Google where your business is located in an encoded way. There's a couple other things you can do with it that's really nice. It's actually the only paid feature of Yoast that I use is the local business thing. It's a subscription once a year, but it's a good thing if you have a locally based business. But that's what I would do. I would start planning ahead of time.
So assuming we're going to add a page to our website talking about the clinic, how far in advance should we be doing that?
Yeah. So I wouldn't add a page that just talks about your clinic, because you're going to provide all those services that your website talks about at the clinic. So you might have a page announcing the clinic as a blog post, but you want to make it clear on every service page that service is provided at this location. So you don't want to have a whole website talking about all these services you provide and then a separate page talking about where it is those services are provided. So you're going to basically update the content in your website to make it very clear where all these services are provided.
Okay, so really we want to integrate it into our existing website.
Absolutely.
So for now, it might be a blog post that's saying coming soon. And then as we get into the countdown, like say 30 days out, integrate it fully so that when people are calling to make an appointment, we can say first available. You got it, right? Does that seem?
Yeah. Maybe 30 days would be too aggressive, because in that 30 days, you might be getting new customers and they might show up at the new address and you're not there yet, right? So I would just consider the fact that, like, I don't know how it works with you, but let's say it takes 2 weeks for you to actually get an appointment together because your schedule's so full. Well, if you knew anybody now who calls you is going to have to wait 2 weeks to get an appointment, then I would know, okay, 2 weeks in advance, it's time to put that in. Because at that point, when they're making the appointment, it's going to take them 2 weeks for they show up. If that were the case and you did a month before, you'd have people showing up for weeks beforehand before you're even there. So I would just kind of ask those questions. I'd almost say that this is one of those things where, hey, SEO is important, but there are other things that might be more important, like making sure you don't make your customers mad by making them go on a wild goose chase to find your resources. Knowing that even if you just waited until the opening day to add the stuff to your site, well, at least then you know where people can find you, right? So that might be the safer play, is just to wait until then. But you can make an announcement, hey, we're opening a new facility. Because of the new facility, we're going to be able to offer these services. Or what are the advantages for the customer, right? What are the new services? Is there more time slots for patients? What are the advantages? Talk about that and then make plans. Start planning on which local listings you're going to submit to. Make sure you have your Google My Business verified first. Convert your Facebook page to this.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you're using the same name, address, phone number. Pay for the Yoast plugin, install it.
Mm-hmm.
The local Yoast plugin, install it, and make sure it is set up properly. These are the things you probably can do ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
And be prepared. But I would worry more about taking care of the customer,
right,
than I would about the SEO implications of this. But I think if you started a week ahead, or if you started a few weeks ahead and just kind of mapped out all that needs to happen first, then you could start to see. And then after it launches, then you can start the local listing process and stuff like that.
Okay.
Please look at the local listing process in Curious Ants. It will
Yeah.
give you a good guide to
Mhm.
start through it.
I just wanted to chime in from two different perspectives here.
Please.
I had a doctor who actually relocated.
Mhm.
And so what they did was when you set your appointment, they let you know that after such and such a day, we will be here. So you knew when your appointment was, and this was like what Allie was talking about, a month or more beforehand. But as soon as they knew when they were moving, they started putting that in the customer's mind. We're moving, we're moving. Now, if your appointment is before this date, you come where you've always been. If your appointment is after this date, it'll be in the new location. But I knew a month ahead of time that my doctor was moving. So you could do that. The thing that I would say from the social media perspective is I wouldn't put any kind of date on anything other than, as David said, the coming soon, until you know that you know that you know.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
how many times has some place supposed to open on the first, and
well,
because of construction delays, it was
second,
the first of 3 months later.
the first location that we were supposed to purchase went through basically a 6-month period of just nonsense, and then eventually they were just like, oh, never mind, we're not selling it. So
Yeah.
but we don't, so it is a little bit different for us than a doctor, because right now we don't really take appointments, we do home services. So the difference is we're going to be marketing to a sort of a different base that is going to be coming in. But I was just thinking, like, as you were talking, that it might be worthwhile maybe a month out, like we were talking about, that 2 to 4 weeks out, to create something on the website where you can book an appointment through the website and have the first available be that
Exactly. After your location will be physically open. But yeah, and you've already been through that 6
Mhm.
months of whatever. Fortunately, you all hadn't announced anything, so nobody was inconvenienced or
So
disappointed.
we're anticipating closing within 90 days, and then we're kind of allotting for a month to then another 30 days to then furnish and get a main space together and start business, while we then develop the rest of the space. So that we
And you'll be in 2021 and out of this jinxed year.
have no idea, man. Like this year, oof, something. Yeah. So that's what we're aiming for, a January opening. And we just wanted to kind of, that's why I wanted to talk about it here, because we want to make sure, like, are we already behind on everything? Because I think that's the other side of the coin, is that if you market too early, you get people excited, and then that excitement dwindles down, and then you lose it. Like, you know.
Well, that could be part of your New Year celebration. You know, everybody's talking about New Year, New You, and, you know, all of this. So that could be really your New Year campaign. Part of it is talking about your new location and ways that that will make it different for you all to service your customers.
Right. That's a good idea. All right.
Great. I love troubleshooting with everybody here. It's great to have everybody's
Yeah.
thoughts. Yeah, it sounds to me like if it hasn't closed yet, we don't want to announce it yet.
They just like accepted the offer, I guess. And
Yeah.
so now it's in like contract and all of that good stuff. So fingers crossed.
Right. Yeah. Once the contract's signed and it's a done deal,
Mhm.
then you're moving. It might take a couple extra months to get things together, but
Yeah,
eventually it will be.
most definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it implied that you had an additional question, Ellie. I wanted to.
So I know we talked last week about the Google Search Console problem pages where we kind of discovered that there are some links that are still going to our old website.
Yeah.
We need to redirect to our current website. Now, Steffi, who, as you know, is our web builder person,
Mhm.
basically said, well, you can do it or I can do it. And I'm just sort of curious, as someone who obviously has no background in that, can I do it? Like, or is it going to be a headache?
So it can be a little scary.
Mhm.
I know the host that you're using,
Yeah.
they have support tickets where you can contact support. What I would do is do them one at a time and slowly and test them.
Mhm.
So for instance, we found one page, for example, last week. Follow the directions, do it once, test it, make sure it works,
Mhm.
make sure nothing's broken on the site. And then if that's the case, do the next one. So the breaks, undo it real quick. And that'll be okay. But just I would do a little bit of time. This can be scary because it might feel scary, but I don't think it's going to end up being as bad as you think it will. Uh, I know where your website's hosted. I know that the interface is actually pretty good and the documentation is good. So follow the directions, and if you run into problems, contact your web hosts for support.
So I guess then the flip side of that is this something that Steffi could probably do in an hour, like versus me doing it over the course of a month?
I don't think you have that many.
Yeah.
I don't think it would take an hour to do them,
Mhm.
but that's exactly right. Diminishing returns. Do you pay an expert to do it quickly so you don't have to worry about it? Or do
It's
you
usually
do
my
it
boat.
yourself, sometimes learn the hard way? I don't want to scare you. I don't think you will make a mistake, but mistakes happen and that's how we learn. And so that's the decision. Do we pay someone to do it and it just be done with it? Great, don't have to worry about it. Or do we learn how to do it so then we have to do it again later? Maybe that's the way to do it too. Or maybe it's a combination,
Right.
right? One thing that I like to do with this is write my own documentation as I do it. So if you end up doing it yourself, write documentation. Step 1, go to here. Step 2, do this. Step 3, do this. Because this might not be something you do very often. And that way you have it written. Or even better, when your company is so big, you're in charge of the marketing team, you give the documentation to someone else for them to do it, right? But this should be something you don't do very often. So maybe just having your developer do it
Mhm.
and walk away might be.
Yeah, because honestly, I looked through it and I think it was like maybe 5 at most.
Yeah.
Like, so and that's what I'm thinking. Like something that would probably be painstaking for me would probably be very easy for her. So
That's the value of being an expert, right? It takes her minutes to do something. It might take you a few hours.
mm,
I have huge respect for Steffi. Steffi does great work. Steffi
Yeah.
could totally do this fast,
yeah.
no trouble. But I think you could learn it too.
Mhm.
And I don't sell yourself short. I
Yeah.
kind of want you to push yourself, but in my mind, that's the decision. The decision is, do you have the budget? Do you have other things you need to be spending your time doing? If that's the case, just let her do it.
Yeah.
If
And that's usually
you
my
want to,
perspective because that's what this side of things, like the SEO and the IT and all that stuff, is like a fifth of what I do.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just like so much more worth it to delegate. Because I'm a big fan of letting people who are good at their job do it instead of me struggling with it.
Yep, absolutely. That's
My team just this week sent me a 3-page document and was like, can you turn this into a 1-page flyer? And it was like, but I did, of course, because that's why they sent it to me, because they knew I could do that. Like, so it's like, send it to the person who could do it.
right. And that's why Steffi's there. She could totally do it.
most definitely.
She'd probably just do it in a few minutes and be done with it. And
Yep.
you're done. It's done right. You don't have to worry about it. That might be the best. But that's the decision. The decision is that, not
Mhm.
you could totally learn how to do it. You could totally do it. I'm
Maybe
confident.
not now.
Yeah. Well, we're almost running out of time. We had question. I kind of whipped through the questions because we had a list of questions. Does anybody have anything else that we'd like to talk about today before we say goodbye?
I have a report back for you.
Ooh, a report.
Remember, we were talking about Instagram and finding ways of being able to post to Instagram without having to use your mobile phone.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So in Facebook, when you have a business Facebook page, under your publishing tools, there's a thing called Creator Studio. And depending on how much video and stuff you post, you may not even be able to see the publishing tools. It may just show you Creator Studio. But there's a Creator Studio for Facebook and there's a Creator Studio for Instagram. You can totally do your Instagram in Creator Studio. It publishes scheduled out. You don't have to use your mobile phone. It will do video, it will do pictures, whatever. The only thing that I haven't quite figured out is how to get it to do stories. Once I figure that part out, and you know what, if I've got to use my phone to post a story, that is so much easier than every time I need something posted to Instagram, having a notification come on my phone. I've got to stop, do that.
Right.
Go back to whatever train of thought just got interrupted.
Right.
And you can see how, if you've got multiple Instagram accounts, how that could be very annoying through the course of the day.
I'm so glad you shared this. Where would I find Instagram Creator Studio?
So when you go to your Facebook page,
Yeah.
click on Publishing Tools.
Okay.
And down that left side, there's an entry that says Creator Studio. And when you open that, there's the Facebook emblem and the Instagram emblem at the top. You click the Instagram emblem.
And you can schedule stuff on Instagram in that way.
Yes.
That's so exciting.
Let me tell you how much easier that has made my life.
Oh,
Thank you for that information.
Oh, you are quite welcome.
that's worth the price of admission.
Oh, man, let me tell you. I have 6 Instagram accounts that I have to post to.
That's a lot.
Yes. And some of them require a little bit more posting than others. So, yes, this has made my life so much easier, not having my phone constantly dinging. And the other thing, because I'm on the West Coast and some people need things posted East Coast time, I could never post anything to Instagram at what would be 8 o'clock in the morning or so your time, because guess who's not going to be up?
Right. Yeah. I tell clients, no.
It's not an issue. So yeah. So that, oh, and you know what the best part of this is?
There's more?
Yes, it's our favorite word. It's free.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, because everything, I think about it, everything else we use is a paid tool. And here's one that's just included in Facebook. We're not paying anything extra for it, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah, but if we get grandfathered in, they might let us keep it for free.
Well, you know, I think Facebook is making money hands over fist in other directions where they are not even worried about this little tool, because it just.
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
I
she
think,
went out.
Right.
oh, there we go. Are we
She
losing you,
went out. Yeah, she went out for a minute.
Anita? Well, I think Anita has at least convinced me to start posting to Instagram because I got to say, one of the reasons I'm not is because this is such a pain in the butt.
There we go. My little helper here had pressed the mute button on the headset. He
That's
likes
because your little
pressing
helper wants to contribute. She wants to come up with the home run of the day.
Yeah. So, oh, and David, you can see your analytics. That was what I was saying when she
Oh,
muted me.
good,
So you can see analytics on each individual post.
good.
See how they found you, whether it was hashtags or it was somebody that already followed you, or it was
Oh,
on the
great.
Explorer or whatever.
Yeah, because that's the other reason I don't use a lot of the Instagrams because the analytics is so bad that I don't even know if it's doing anything. And if it's not doing anything, I don't want to do it. And I don't want to do it because I have to do it.
In Google Analytics, I have like 3 different Facebook sources. And I'm
Right.
like, well, I'm assuming one of these is Instagram because Facebook owns Instagram. It's not.
Yeah.
And I don't know because I'm like, why are there 3 different Facebooks showing up? So I'm just
It's very confusing. I'll see if I can dig up. There's an article a colleague of mine wrote where they took the time to analyze where the 3 are coming from, and it all has to do with like some are from web browsers, some are from mobile web browsers, and some are from the app.
super annoying.
But Instagram doesn't typically deliver a lot of traffic because you have to go through the one link you get, which is the link there. That's why everything's see link in bio, see link in bio,
Yeah.
And
Well, I
so
also found out this week it's super annoying that Pinterest doesn't allow you to have multiple users on your business page.
Oh.
So I like created a business account and then I was like, okay, I'm going to share this with our social media girl. And I couldn't figure out how to add her. And I emailed Pinterest. They're like, oh yeah, we don't do that. It's like, what? So I have to literally give her my login to go in and post for us because the only way they let you add someone to it is for a paid ad. And I'm like if you create a paid advertisement, then you can add a user to handle that.
It's like they want to make money from their platform or something. How dare they?
Allie, now there is an app that I love for Pinterest, and I only use it for Pinterest.
Really?
It's called Tailwind.
Tailwind? Tailwind.
I've
Yes.
used that before. It's good.
And it was actually created for Pinterest, but they do Instagram as well. But oh my goodness, girl, get your social media person that app because it is fantastic.
I know she pre-schedules all of our Facebook stuff, but I'll have to show her this too because we just like revamped our whole Instagram game and our Twitter, and now we're launching Pinterest this week. And so we're really trying to, because I guess it's on the record because we're recording, but sort of off the record, like a lot of our social media posts were boring. So we're trying to add some humor and brevity to our posts because we need people engage with that. So like we're doing more funny things on Twitter and we're doing more image oriented things on Instagram and we're doing more guides and how-tos on Pinterest, like trying to cater to the platform's user base rather than just share our regular information across a bunch of different platforms.
It's funny you said that because I got this, came across this company that it's a bunch of comedy writers and they will do social media stuff for people. I mean, or teach you how to do it yourself using comedy as how you attract people to your information. I mean, God knows, you have to have much more of a budget than I do to be able to afford them. But if you can, I mean, these are professional comedy writers that have TV credits to their name. So, but the idea, yeah, I mean, you're on something. They said that those are the most viral things.
And that's where obviously the field we work in is very narrow. but it has practical applications outside of that. So the hashtag that we're creating is called ABA can help with that. And it's things like, how can I get my mother-in-law to not visit 3 days a week? Like, ABA can help with that. Like, or my husband doesn't put the dishes away. ABA can help with. So like adding those kind of everyday applications to something that is a serious science that we do use, but also being like, hey, you can also use this just in your life. Like, be inspired, take this, and apply it and laugh a little bit with it. So we're hoping hashtag ABA can help with that. So that's our most recent project that I'm really excited about.
That is very cool. Well, I think we need to call it a day. But thank you all. It's always great to see you and hear and talk with you.
It was a great, productive meeting.
Good. I felt so too. I learned something too, which is why I enjoy these so much. So
Thank you.
thank you, everybody. Have a great week.
Have
You
a great
too.
week.
All right.
Thanks.
Talk
Bye-bye.
to you soon.
Bye.